What if everything you've been chasing, health, energy, purpose, was never something outside of you, but something waiting quietly within? You see, life doesn't shift in grand gestures, it whispers. In the way you rise with the sun, in how you nourish your body, or the silence between your thoughts. There's a rhythm pulsing through each of us, a choreography written before we even understood movement. Sometimes we forget we're part of that dance. The noise gets loud. We believe transformation must be massive, overwhelming. But in truth, it begins in the smallest of choices, a breath before reacting, a sip of water, a step outside. This isn't about changing everything. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. 1 week. 3 habits. That's all it takes to realign with that divine rhythm. Because your life isn't waiting to begin. It's unfolding perfectly now. And you, whether you see it yet or not, are already part of something extraordinary. Absolutely. Here's the 800-word expansion of key point 1, the body as a living temple. Reclaiming the sacred through daily rituals delivered in a reflective, powerful, and poetic tone, aligned with the overall speech. You know, there's this moment, quiet, unassuming, when you catch a glimpse of yourself in the mirror, not as a body to fix, but as a being to honor. And it's in that moment, even if fleeting, that the truth breaks through. Your body is not the enemy. It never was. It's not a project to perfect or a burden to carry. It's your companion, your vessel, your instrument for this journey. But we forget. We're conditioned to see the body through the lens of criticism. Too tired, too heavy, too slow. We wage war with it, demand more from it, push it beyond limits without ever pausing to say, thank you. Without ever asking, what does my body need to feel loved today? That's where the reset begins. Not with a scale, not with a six-pack, but with reverence. Because your body, it's been showing up for you since day one. When you were a child, it ran wild and free. When you were heartbroken, it carried your grief. When you were anxious, it held your breath. And even now, after all the things it's been through, all the neglect, the noise, the numbness, it's still here. Try healing, hoping you'll finally listen. See, this isn't about motivation. It's about devotion. When we treat the body as sacred, we stop punishing it for not being what someone else told us it should be. We stop measuring it against filters and trends. And instead, we begin a relationship, a quiet, powerful partnership rooted in daily rituals of care. Imagine what it would feel like to wake up tomorrow and not look in the mirror for flaws, but for life, to touch your own skin and feel present, not critical. To drink water and move your limbs, not because you have to, but because it's your offering. Your way of saying, I choose to honor you. You don't need a detox. You don't need a miracle morning. You need to remember that your body has always been trying to love you. And all it's ever wanted for you to love it back. So start small, not with restriction, not with a 21-day challenge, but with reverence. With one quiet moment where you say, today I show up for you. Maybe that means stretching while the coffee brews. Maybe that means stepping outside and letting the sun touch your face. Maybe it's a walk, a glass of water, or choosing to slow down just enough to feel your feet on the ground. You don't have to earn your rest. You don't have to punish yourself into change. You just have to return to your body, to your breath, to the quiet wisdom within you. And look, I know the world is loud. I know the pressure is real. But underneath all of that, beneath the marketing and the fear, is a knowing, a truth. Your heart is beating. Your lungs are expanding. Your cells are healing. It's time we treated that miracle like it matters. Because when we do, even for 1 week, something shifts. Your energy, your mood, your presence. You stop chasing your worth and start living it. You begin to feel safe, not just in your mind, but in your skin. And that, right there, is the moment everything changes. Because once you see your body as sacred, you start treating your life that way too. You begin making choices not from fear or guilt, but from love. You stop striving to be someone new and start remembering who you've always been. Whole, capable, worthy. That's the first habit. Not something you add to your schedule, but something you awaken in your spirit. The habit of reverence, the ritual of listening. the choice to no longer abandon yourself in the name of productivity. When you reclaim your body as your ally, you don't just reset your health, you reset your identity. So maybe today, the most radical thing you can do isn't to grind harder. Maybe it's to come home to yourself, to pause, to thank your body for all it's carried, and to whisper to it, not with judgment, but with grace. I'm here now. Let's begin again, because sometimes the smallest acts of care are the loudest declarations of love. And your body has been waiting your whole life to hear that love speak. Absolutely. Here's the 800-word expansion of Key Point 2 from the speech titled 1 Week, 3 Habits. Unlock a body and life you love, written in a grounded, soulful, and conversational tone that mirrors the flow of the overall message. It's easy to think transformation has to be loud, dramatic, filled with big leaps and bigger sacrifices. But let me tell you, real change doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up in the tiny, quiet spaces of your day when no one's watching and no one's cheering. And one of the most powerful of those spaces is the moment you wake up. Now, I don't mean the kind of morning where you bolt out of bed, already behind on your to-do list, reaching for your phone before your feet even touch the ground. That's not a beginning. That's a reaction. That's you stepping into the world on defense before you've even had a moment to be with yourself. But what if, just for 1 week, you rewrote that script? What if you gave yourself the gift of 10 minutes? Not to do, not to fix, but to be, to start the day on purpose, not by accident? Because here's the truth. How you start your day is how you build your life. You don't need a full hour. You don't need a fancy routine. You need one intentional choice, just one. Something that says, I matter. Something that tells your mind, before the chaos comes, I am grounded. I am here. It could be sitting in silence with a warm mug of tea. It could be stepping outside and feeling the air on your skin. It could be journaling a single sentence or speaking one affirmation out loud. Today, I choose peace. When you begin your day by claiming it, by making even one conscious decision, you're not just managing your time better. You're telling your nervous system, your heart, your spirit, you are safe here. We're not rushing into survival mode anymore. And that small act of intention, it compounds. It shifts the way you eat, the way you move, the way you speak to yourself and to others. It doesn't have to look like meditation or breath work or anything you see online. It just has to feel like presence. Because so many of us have become strangers to our mornings. We wake up in our lives, but not with them. Our thoughts are already miles ahead. We're bracing for the worst before the day even unfolds. That's not a life. That's a loop. But when you meet the day with clarity, even a sliver of it, you break that loop. You step off the treadmill of reaction and into something softer, something real. I know there are bills to pay, kids to feed, emails waiting. I know your mornings might feel like sprints. But this is not about perfection. This is about claiming one moment, one habit that reminds you, you're the author of this day. You don't have to wait for a vacation or a new job or a better version of yourself to start living with more intention. You just have to pause long enough to remember that life is happening now. In this breath, in this beat. So let your morning be your anchor. Let it be your compass. Let it be the space where you remind yourself, not through scrolling, not through comparing, but through stillness, that your life is your own. Maybe for you, that moment looks like moving your body to music you love. Maybe it's reading a few pages of a book that lights you up. Or maybe it's standing barefoot in your kitchen, hand on your heart, saying, I've got me today. Don't underestimate what that does to your biology. When you take control of your morning rhythm, you take back the reins of your mental energy, your cortisol levels, your emotional focus. You start designing your day instead of letting it drag you. And look, this isn't about pretending every morning will be magical. They won't. You'll have mornings where the alarm doesn't go off, the dog throws up, and your kid needs glue for a school project you didn't know about. Life happens. But the beautiful thing is, once this becomes your default, once it becomes your rhythm, those off days don't throw you off track anymore. You just start again the next morning because it's no longer a chore. It's who you are becoming. This is not just about a better morning. It's about a better relationship with yourself. You give yourself 10 intentional minutes each day, and I promise you, the rest of your day will start to reflect that care. You'll eat differently, move differently, think differently, not because you were choosing it. That's how real change sneaks in. Quiet, consistent, unshakable. So if you're wondering where to begin here. Begin at sunrise. Begin in the stillness before the world gets loud. Begin by showing up for yourself when no one else is around to applaud it. Because that version of you, the one who chooses peace before pressure, she's the one who builds the life you love. And it all starts with the first breath of morning. So tomorrow, don't wake up on autopilot. Wake up on purpose. Here's the 800-word expansion of key point 3 for the speech titled 1 Week, 3 Habits. Unlock a body and life you love. Continuing in the same reflective conversational tone, building off the previous sections. Let's talk about energy, not the caffeine kind. Not the high adrenaline, hustle till you drop kind. I mean the deep, sustainable, clear kind of energy. The kind that hums through your body when you're aligned, rested, and actually living in rhythm with yourself. And here's the thing most people never realize. Your energy doesn't come from how much you do. It comes from how well you renew. We live in a culture that celebrates burnout. We wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. We think if we're not drained by the end of the day, we haven't tried hard enough. But that mindset, it's breaking us down from the inside out. The truth is, your energy is one of the most sacred things you own. And just like your phone, if you never plug it in, if you keep running app after app, ignoring all the warning signs, you're going to shut down. It's not personal. It's physics. And yet, most of us keep pushing. We ignore the fatigue. We scroll through our evenings, fall into bed, overstimulated, and then wonder why we wake up feeling empty. But your energy isn't a mystery. It's a mirror. It reflects the choices you make with your time, your body, and your mind. So one of the habits I want to invite you to try for just 1 week is this. Create one intentional pause in your day to recharge, not to numb out, not to escape, but to actually restore your energy. That could be a 5-minute walk outside with your phone on airplane mode. It could be lying on your back with your legs up the wall, letting your nervous system calm down. It could be dancing in your kitchen like no one's watching, because no one is. And even if they were, who cares? The point isn't the what. It's the why. You're not weak for needing breaks. You're wise. Because here's what happens when you give your body and brain real space to breathe. Your creativity returns. Your decisions get clearer. Your mood steadies. And your self-respect skyrockets. Because now you're acting like someone who matters to you. I want you to hear this. Energy is not something you chase. It's something you protect. And one of the best ways to protect it is to stop giving it away to things that don't deserve it. That includes overthinking, people-pleasing, and saying yes when your gut is screaming no. Every time you override your boundaries, you leak energy. Every time you pretend you're okay when you're not, you burn fuel. And eventually, you crash. So for 1 week, just try this. Commit to one pause every day where you do something, not to check a box, not to perform, but to nourish. You'll be shocked at what changes when you give yourself even 10 minutes of real presence. You might cry. You might laugh. You might just breathe and feel something unspoken begin to unclench inside of you. That's not a waste of time. That's healing. And I know there's laundry, there are emails, there are 57 things demanding your attention, but none of them are more important than the life force inside you that's quietly waiting for permission to rise again. Most people wait until burnout forces them to stop, but you don't have to wait for a breakdown to make a breakthrough. You can choose now. That one habit, pausing to restore your energy, might feel small. It might feel unnecessary. But over time, it recalibrates everything. Your posture changes, your tone softens, you stop snapping at the people you love. You start making choices from alignment instead of anxiety.
That's not woo-woo.
That's wisdom. So don't underestimate what can happen when you stop pushing and start listening. When you stop filling every second and start honoring the spaces in between. We spend our lives chasing energy, trying to feel better, trying to get back on track. But maybe the track is this: honoring yourself enough to say, I deserve to feel alive without earning it through exhaustion. You don't have to earn your rest. You just have to claim it. And once you do, once you make space, even just for 1 week, to protect and restore your energy, you'll realize something beautiful. You've had access to power all along. It was never gone. It was just waiting for you to slow down long enough to return to it. So from now on, when the world gets loud, don't just keep running. Take a breath, take a pause, and let yourself come home. Because your energy isn't what drives you, it defines you. Absolutely. Here's the 800-word expansion of key point 4. For the speech 1 week, 3 habits. Unlock a body and life you love. The segment flows in the same poetic, grounded, yet conversational tone, with a strong, close, seamlessly fitting within the broader message. Let's talk about something that we often brush aside like it's just background noise. The way you talk to yourself. You could be eating right, moving your body, even getting the sleep your nervous system has been begging for. But if your inner dialogue is a loop of self-doubt, comparison, and criticism, you'll never feel at home in your own life. And not because anything is wrong with you, but because that voice inside your head is out of alignment with the truth of who you really are. We spend so much time trying to change how we look, how we perform, how we appear to the world, and almost no time at all examining how we speak to ourselves when no one's listening. And yet that voice, it's the narrator of your experience. So if the words you say to yourself are harsh, dismissive, or defeating, it doesn't matter how good your habits are. You're still building your life on a cracked foundation. But here's the good news. You can train that voice. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending everything's fine when it's not. It's about building a relationship with yourself that is grounded in truth, compassion, and consistency. The kind of relationship you'd want to have with someone you love. Because at the end of the day, you're the only person you're guaranteed to be with for the rest of your life. And that relationship, it matters more than any other. One of the habits that can shift everything in a week is this. Begin each morning by speaking with yourself instead of at yourself. There's a difference. When you speak at yourself, you bark orders, you criticize, you rush, you judge. But when you speak with yourself, you listen, you ask questions, you offer support. You begin the day like you're walking beside yourself, not dragging yourself behind some imaginary standard. Try this tomorrow morning. Before you touch your phone, before you pour the coffee or check the emails, sit with yourself for 60 seconds. Place a hand on your chest if you want, and ask gently, how are you really doing today? Then just listen. Don't fix, don't analyze. Just listen. Because when you give your inner voice a seat at the table, something powerful happens. You stop abandoning yourself. That little moment of tuning in can redirect your whole day. Suddenly, you're not reacting from autopilot. You're responding with awareness, with care, with presence. And maybe if you're really listening, you'll realize you need to slow down today or move more. Or say no to something that feels heavy. Or maybe you'll realize you're okay and just needed someone, even if it's you, to remind you of that. See, most people wait for confidence to magically arrive. They think it's something you earn after achieving a certain goal. But real confidence, it's born the moment you stop abandoning yourself in the moments you need you most. So 1 week, that's all I'm asking. 1 week of treating yourself like someone worth listening to. 1 week of replacing. I look terrible today with the, hey, I'm showing up. I'm trying. That counts. 1 week of trading. Why can't I get it together, Rith? With what do I need right now to feel grounded? It's not a performance. It's a practice. And the more you do it, the quieter that inner critic becomes. Not because it disappears, but because it finally feels heard. The critical voice isn't always trying to hurt you. Sometimes it's just scared. Sometimes it learned to speak that way from years of being dismissed or ignored. But when you start meeting yourself with compassion instead of control, the tone changes. You become someone you trust. And trust, that's the fuel for every lasting transformation. When you trust yourself, you don't need to obsess over the perfect plan. You don't waste energy doubting every decision. You stop outsourcing your worth to other people's approval. You start living in rhythm with your own life. That kind of inner trust, the kind you build one day, one word, one breath at a time, is the most radical form of self-respect there is. And the ripple effect. You show up differently in every room you walk into, not louder, but stronger. Not polished, but present. And presence, real presence, is magnetic. Focus on how you're being, especially with yourself, because your voice is powerful. Use it wisely. Use it like you matter, because you do. Here is the 800-word expansion of Key Point 5. For the speech, 1 week, 3 habits. Unlock a body and life you love. This segment maintains the same warm, grounded tone and flows naturally from the prior point about inner dialogue, focusing on a habit that strengthens both body and spirit, without ever sounding formulaic or motivational in the usual sense. Let's talk about something deceptively simple, but often overlooked in the chase for energy, productivity, or even peace of mind: movement. Not exercise in the traditional sense, not hitting the gym at 6 a.m. because you think you should. I'm talking about movement as a daily practice of remembering that you live in a body, that you are not just a brain on a screen or a list of tasks to complete. You are a physical being with a nervous system, a heart, and a story that lives in your muscles and bones. And yet, most of us forget that. We get so caught up in the hustle of our schedules and the stories playing in our heads that we don't even realize we've stopped feeling. We've stopped moving. We've stopped listening to the wisdom of our body, which is constantly whispering, I need to breathe. I need to stretch. I need to shake off what I'm holding. You don't need a 90-minute workout or a personal trainer or some app yelling at you to push harder. What you need is a return to the simplest form of aliveness, intentional movement. And I get it. You're busy. We all are. But one of the most powerful habits you can commit to, just for this week, is this. Move your body for 10 minutes every day. That's it. 10 minutes. But it has to be intentional. Not walking around the house while you check your phone. Not pacing while you're on a call. I mean 10 minutes where you show up just for you. No distractions, no goals, just you and your breath and your movement. Put on music if that helps. Stretch. Walk outside. Dance like nobody's watching, even if somebody is. It doesn't matter what it looks like. This isn't about burning calories. This is about clearing emotional weight, because here's what nobody tells you. Your body stores emotions. That tension in your shoulders, that tightness in your jaw, that pit in your stomach. It's not just stress. It's emotion that got stuck because it never got expressed. And one of the fastest ways to process those emotions isn't to think your way out. It's to move your way through. That's why animals shake after they're scared. That's why kids run around when they're overwhelmed. Movement is how the body resets the nervous system. It's how we metabolize not just food, but experience, but somewhere along the way. We grew up. We sat down. We got quiet. We got stiff. We internalized this belief that our bodies were machines meant to look good and get things done. We forgot that our bodies are instruments meant to be played, moved, listened to, and loved. So if you're feeling stuck in your head, the answer isn't always more thinking. It might be movement. And the moment you give yourself permission to move freely, without judgment, without structure, without trying to fix anything, you create a small revolution in your day. You shift your emotional state without needing to understand it. You interrupt the pattern. You remind your body, hey, we're safe. We're still here. We're doing this together. That 10-minute habit might sound small, but over a week, it's a signal, a sacred message to your nervous system that says you're allowed to feel good. You're allowed to take up space. You're allowed to be here in this body, in this moment. And that changes things. Suddenly, you're not dragging yourself through the day. You're participating in it. You're responding to life instead of reacting to it. You're not waiting until everything's perfect to feel alive. You're using your body to claim that aliveness right now. One of the biggest lies we've bought into is that joy is something that happens after we've earned it. But the truth is, joy is a muscle, and movement is one of the ways we strengthen it. So if there's a part of you that's been feeling dull or heavy or disconnected lately, don't try to fix it all in your head. Start with your body. You can't numb your way into a life that feels meaningful. You have to participate. And movement? That's participation in its purest form. So for 1 week, give yourself this: 10 minutes of intentional movement, not to become someone else, but to come home to yourself. And when you feel your feet on the ground, your heart beating, your breath steady, you'll realize something beautiful. You were never stuck. You were just still. And now you're in motion. Absolutely. Here's the 800-word expansion of Key Point 6 from the speech 1 Week, 3 Habits. Unlock a body and life you love. This segment flows seamlessly from the previous points, carrying forward the message of alignment, presence, and reclaiming control over your life through simple but profound action. So here we are, the last piece of this 1 week reset. You've tuned into your breath. You've softened your inner voice, you've moved your body with presence and purpose. And now it's time to anchor everything you've done with a practice most people overlook, but it's the one that sets the entire tone for your day, your mindset, and your energy. It happens in the first 10 minutes after you wake up. That tiny window between sleep and full consciousness, where your brain is most impressionable, where your nervous system hasn't yet been hijacked by the world's noise, that's where your day is born. And for most of us, we give that precious window away. We check our phones, we scroll, we look at news, notifications, calendars, and immediately start reacting before we've even decided how we want to feel. Here's the truth. So here's the habit. For 1 week, the first 10 minutes after you wake up belong to you, not your inbox, not your phone, not the pressure of what needs to be done. Just you. And I'm not going to tell you exactly what to do with those 10 minutes, because this isn't about creating more rules. It's about creating a ritual, one that reminds your brain, your body, and your soul. I'm the one driving today. You could journal. You could sit in stillness. You could take deep breaths and ask yourself one simple question. What do I need today? You could stretch. You could visualize. You could repeat a phrase that helps you reconnect with who you are beyond all the noise. What matters is that you choose it. You make that time sacred. You protect it like it's your life, because in many ways, it is. Because what you do first thing in the morning sets the tone for everything that follows. Think about it. If you start your day in stress, distraction, and consumption, you'll spend your day chasing focus, chasing calm. But if you begin your day with presence, even just 10 minutes of it, you build a foundation. You step into your day rooted, not reactive, clear, not chaotic. You remind your brain that you're in charge of how you meet the world. And when that becomes a habit, you start to feel different. Different. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You start noticing your breath in the middle of a hard conversation, and you start making decisions from clarity instead of panic. You stop letting someone else's urgency define your pace. Reclaim your day before it even begins. And here's what's really wild. This small habit, this simple shift, it ripples. You're more grounded with your kids, more present in your work, more intentional with your time. Not because you suddenly became superhuman, but because you made space for your humanity. Because let's be honest, we live in a world that's constantly trying to distract us, disconnect us, convince us that we're behind, that we need to be doing more, achieving more, proving more. But that morning moment, it's where you return to the truth. That you are enough, that your presence matters, that today doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. And maybe, for the first time in a long time, you actually believe it. You begin your day aligned. You move through your world from the inside out instead of the outside in. You stop living on autopilot and start leading with intention. It doesn't mean life gets easier, but it does mean you get stronger, steadier, clearer, because you're no longer waking up and bracing for impact. You're waking up and choosing how to meet the day. And that choice, that's everything. So just for 1 week, give yourself those first 10 minutes. No phone, no noise, no rushing. Just you and your breath, you and your thoughts, you and that quiet inner knowing that's been waiting patiently beneath all the noise. And when the world inevitably pulls at you again, because it will, you'll meet it not from panic, not from depletion, but from power. Because you started your day remembering who you are. And when you remember who you are, everything changes. So protect your morning. It's not just the beginning of your day. It's the beginning of you.